Before Andrew Carnegie or J.D. Rockefeller made their riches, there was Cornelius Vanderbilt. This is how the American Dutchman made a fortune out of sails and rails, and how his estate drowned and derailed. Vanderbilt didn't have a lot to build on. His parents were smallholder farmers on Staten Island. However, the family business helped nurture his love for water vessels. As a child, he went with his father on trading runs to Manhattan on a periauger, and it was on this two-masted boat carrying produce and merchandise that Vanderbilt learned the way of the water. At age 11, Vanderbilt dropped out of school. He wasn't the brightest student in the class, but on water, he was a quick study. You could say he learned better with the school of fishes. He spent the next 5 years learning from his father, and in 1810, 16-year-old Vanderbilt bought his first periauger with a $100 loan from his mother. In return, he gave a cut of his profits from his passenger transport business to his parents. Then an opportunity for expansion showed up during the War of 1812. His fleet supplied government outposts around New York City, and after the war, he acquired more boats with his earnings and learned shipbuilding. His small business was thriving, but he was Neptune. His real ambition was to conquer the sea. The big dollars of water transportation were in the steamships. So, in 1818, he sold his fleet and partnered with Thomas Gibbons to captain the steamers of Gibbons Union Line. After Gibbons died in 1826, Vanderbilt, nicknamed Commodore, was ready for his own adventure. In his time with Gibbons, he had gathered capital and know-how of running a big transportation business. At first, he tried to buy Union Line from Gibbons' son. When young Gibbons refused to sell, Vanderbilt went off on his own. His dispatch line traveled through the same route as the Union Line's fleet, and in a matter of just months, Union Line was losing horribly to Vanderbilt. He tipped the scale by offering customers irresistible fair deals in his aggressive advertisements. Eventually, the suffocated Union Line boss was forced to buy him out. Vanderbilt took the money and set sail for Hudson River. There, he took down the monopoly of the Hudson River Steamboat Association. With his novel contemporary services and cutthroat prices, he dispatched the competition in a wink. This time, they bought out the People's Line for $100,000 and paid him $5,000 annually. And that's how you create passive income. He repeated this tactic of bending knees and getting paid so well that by 1846, he was a millionaire. His first major trust in the seafaring trade was a steamship ride that made passengers and cargo between New York and San Francisco. Rather than ply the usual routes, Vanderbilt devised a new way through the Nicaraguan Isthmus. His hectic but swifter voyages also coincided with the peak years of the gold rush in California. Prospectors and disguised goblins looking for the yellow money metal trusted his accessory transit company to get them to the West Coast. The venture brought in over $1 million yearly, and as expected, in 1852, his rivals came begging. They paid him $40,000 monthly to abandon the enterprise. The former farm boy had found fortune, enough to buy a yacht he called the North Star. With it, he took his big family around Europe on a trip that reportedly cost him a meager $500,000. Vanderbilt left the waterways for the railways in the 1850s. Slowly, he acquired railroads, including the New York and Harlem Railroad, the Hudson River Railroad, and the New York Central Railroad. He lost the Erie Railroad War to Jim Fisk and Jay Gould, but that didn't stop his charge. He later consolidated his holdings in 1869, and in 1871, he launched a Grand Central Depot for the New York Central Railroad operations. In 1873, he offered his first trips between New York and Chicago after adding the Lakeshore and Michigan Southern Railroad. He was credited with increasing the efficiency of rail travel with timetables and boarding procedures. While he made a mountain of money, Vanderbilt lived a not-so-colorful life, except for his language, of course. He focused on increasing his empire, but lived modestly for a man of his financial standing. And at the time of his death in 1877, he left $100 million in his will. This was twice the size of the US Treasury at the time. So, you're probably asking, if the Vanderbilts were once richer than the US, where did all the money go? Did Jack Sparrow steal their mighty gold chest? They wish. The thing is, Vanderbilt was succeeded by descendants who were his stark opposites. They just didn't share his zeal for his wealth accumulation. Vanderbilt's empire began crumbling after the death of William Henry Billy Vanderbilt, his eldest son. Billy was the last heir to significantly grow his father's fortune, maybe because he was Vanderbilt's direct successor. His dad had left him with the words, "Any fool can make a fortune. It takes a man of brains to hold on to it." But he could only hold on for as long as he lived. When Billy died in 1885, he had doubled the $100 million his father left behind. But an error in transition killed Vanderbilt's legacy. His father had left the company to him, but Billy handed it to his two sons, William Kissam and Cornelius II. However, only Cornelius II took care of the business until he died in 1899. Kissam, on the other hand, bred horses and donated handsomely to charitable causes. By the 1950s, New York Central had become so mismanaged. It sold out to Chesapeake and Ohio Railway, which soon ran it into the ground. In 1971, Amtrak took over New York Central's operations, and it was the final nail in the coffin of Vanderbilt's legacy. The original Cornelius Vanderbilt, unlike many of the super-rich, had cared little for philanthropy. One of his largest charitable deeds was a donation of $1 million towards the construction of the Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. He also gave his largest steamship, the Vanderbilt, to the Union Army during the Civil War, and that was mostly it. As for his successors, they gave Vanderbilt's money away so much you could feel him turning in his grave with every donation. Alongside their generosity was a lust for pricey artwork. Added to the expensive efforts to keep up with high society, they were living it up by burning money. Among such efforts were their lavish parties. How extravagant, you ask? Think Great Gatsby. Yes, with all the pomp and circumstances imaginable. The Vanderbilt Ball of 1883 alone cost $250,000. That's over $7 million today. While Vanderbilt died in his modest brick home in Manhattan, his inheritors built palaces kings envied. Cornelius II built the breakers in Newport, Rhode Island. George Washington Vanderbilt II's The Biltmore remains the largest private home in America today. William Kissam's Petit Chateau on the New York City's Fifth Avenue, and others like the Triple Palaces, broke new grounds in the architecture of the Gilded Age. Needless to say, they all cost a ton of dollars. By 1947 though, all their mansions in New York had been repurposed or demolished. And by the time CNN's Andrew Cooper came into the Vanderbilt household, the well had dried up. He told Howard Stern, "My mom's made it clear to me that there's no trust fund." His mom was Gloria Vanderbilt. She had made her money in the fashion business. But her father, Reginald Claypool Vanderbilt, had been as prodigal as it gets. He had zero interest in working, but loved horses, drinking, and gambling. His self-indulgence was so bad, when he died of cirrhosis of the liver at 45, all that remained was his daughter's trust fund. Just like that. Like the steam from his ships. Like the fuel from his trains. Vanderbilt's fortune all went up in smoke. Okay, go on, you know the drill. Like the video and subscribe for more videos just like this.